Hello everybody. My name is Chris Ross and I'm a Senior Disability Advisor at Birmingham City University. I've got many roles there. My principal role is I line manage a team of disability advisors, so they get support in place for students making suitable recommendations. Another major role of mine is that I'm collaborating with academic staff to help them improve resources and methodologies to ensure that they're operating and acting in an inclusive practice way. I've got lots of experience. I've been supporting students for a number of years now. So I've been asked to pass on a few words and advice for visually impaired students who are thinking about attending a university. And I've got a number of tips that I'd like to pass on. One crucial element is that in any dealings with a university, transparency and communication is absolutely vital. It's essential that all parties are made aware of what's going on and what is needed. And that will mean that any student's experience and journey is eased and things are a lot easier for everybody. Things can be put in place and you are then able to maximize the enjoyment of actually studying. Getting things in place does take quite a while, and universities do need to know very much in advance. We're in the month of May now, and I would strongly advise that any student who's thinking about going to a university to contact the disability services team at that university. If you just go to the homepage of the university and do a search for disability services, it will definitely come up there. Even if you're not attending that university, you should flag up that if it's your first or second choice university, flag it up to say that you potentially could be going there. Obviously, once you've accepted a place at a university, that communication with the disability services should commence immediately. Obviously, you should disclose to the university of your condition. You should ideally provide medical evidence to demonstrate to the level of vision you have. All universities will need to see that, and then when I talk about funding bodies in a moment, that is also essential as well, that they will see copies of the condition, ideally from a GP or other medical professional. A diagnosis of the condition is normally required, and also a description of how that has an impact on the student in his daily life. That's very important because that medical evidence is then used as a foundation to build lots of other documents. At my university, we call it a support summary. Others might call it an inclusive plan. Essentially, it's all the same, where the disability advisors will write up a report, and within that document, a number of reasonable adjustments are made, such as how the student can access the environment, the teaching resources, also if there's any specific needs that that individual student may have, critically for exams, so potentially assistive technology or even a reader or something like that. That exam support needs to be put in place. So that document is then attached to the student, and that goes out to all the academic staff. And as you can imagine, each student has their own individual needs and requirements. Also, I'm going to strongly recommend that any student, once they've applied and accepted a place at a university, they should apply for a government funding stream, which is called Disabled Students Allowance. This is a very important feature of the studies, and from start to finish, your whole application can take up to 3 months. And especially in our current times, that could even take longer. Disabled Students Allowance is not a loan. It's not something that you pay back. It's not means tested. And it is an entitlement that is based on the medical evidence that you can provide. So you can do that in several ways. The most common way is when you are applying for your basic maintenance student finance grant, there is an option in that process, in that application, where you can tick the box to say you would like to apply for Disabled Students Allowance. You can apply separately for Disabled Students Allowance, and all information can be found on the gov.uk website. So apply for that, and in the process of that, you will have to attend a needs assessment. The needs assessment is where an expert in disabilities will interview you and draws up a big report, which is called a needs assessment or assessment of needs. And within that document, there are recommendations for a lot of provision. It is mainly based through assistive technology. So that could be software of a dictation type, text to speech. And there is also an element of Disabled Students Allowance, which is called non-medical helper support. So that's human support. That could be in the case of a note taker or a reader or even a practical assistant. Sighted guide could also be in there as well, which is very useful for some visually impaired students. Once that assessment of needs has been drawn up, that is then sent to the funding body, mainly Student Finance England, but if you're doing a NHS-based course, health course, that might be funded through the NHS Bursary. Your disability services in the university you've chosen will have all of that information to hand. So it's important that you ask for that information. Where should I apply? With whom should I apply? They will also give you details of any assessment centres that you need to go to. The disability services at the university you choose will get copies of all of the documentation, and they will guide you on what the next process is, and they will help you to arrange any kind of non-medical helper support that you are awarded. Whilst you're talking to the disability services, there are a number of other questions that you need to ask. You need to ask about accommodation. If you are moving into university-owned accommodation, you should be asking them to what provision they can provide you, whether accessible rooms can be available, such as in ground floor flats, types of furniture that could be in the room. You may also ask if there's any provision for initial start, so meeting at welcome weekend, giving you guidance around the campus and making you familiar with that. In regards to wider mobility orientation, you may have to contact the social services department within the town or city you're moving to and asking them if they can support, or if there's any other local association that can provide orientation and mobility support. There's lots of information around there, but the disability services should and will be able to give you that information immediately. It may seem that it's quite laborious, but once all support is put in place, it is there for the rest of the course, so things will move very smoothly thereafter. My team at the moment have got 1,600 students who disclosed a disability or long-term condition on their UCAS forms. We are actively now communicating with every single one of those to find out what support we can put in place. So if your university contacts you in that sense, I strongly encourage you that you engage with that process. For when you arrive in September, all of that support is in place. I would not recommend that you turn up in September at Welcome Week and disclose long-term conditions such as a visual impairment, because the team will need time to actually put all that support in place, and your studies may be interrupted and you may find difficulties in that first term if all of this hasn't been arranged. Again, I go back to my very first point, where transparency is very important. You need to be open and honest and open that dialogue with the disability services. If something's not working or is not clear, ask for clarification. I hope this is comprehensive. I hope this has given you some useful guidance. I wish you well in your studies, and I hope you thrive with great success.